We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hello, this is Tika Lark Fleming, and this is the February 7th edition of the Black Grrl Show. I am so happy to be here today. I'm happy that I remember that it's February. We have two great guests, Lisa and Nzuji. And before I do that, though, I'm going to do the Breaking the Table that I always do at the start of the show. The name of this Breaking the Table is called Let's Share. I don't like misnomers. Sharing economy, free, and independent are all terms that have been perverted. The sharing economy as labeled by Fortune magazine is not sharing. Uber, Airbnb is not about sharing. It is not about cooperation. Until shelter and food can be gotten in exchange for services, and that option is open to all people of all classes and all races, then it's not sharing. It's exclusion. The sharing economy where only the privileged who own property, a car, and can live on trust funds or the resources of historical wealth and education that was only granted to people of certain classes and certain races is not real, and it's not fair. If you don't have anything to share, then you don't get to fairly participate. If you are hungry right now, you don't get to negotiate. Only those with money, access, and time get to negotiate to pay the lowest price that won't let you die. There is nothing liberating or free about people with money sharing with other people who have money. That isn't groundbreaking. That's how racism and classism are done politely. It's not freedom. It's not cooperation. It's free market capitalism with an Urban Outfitter purchased indie t-shirt and an organic coffee. There is no freedom when the entire labor market has been destroyed. There is no freedom when even progressive people will support paying people unfair wages if it's through a convenient app. There is no freedom when you have to earn $68,000 a year to afford an average apartment in Los Angeles. There is no freedom when we are fighting not for $33 an hour, but $15 an hour in 2019. There is no freedom when 20% of Los Angeles is in poverty. A real sharing economy would work on things like public housing for all, single-payer universal health care for all, universal child care for all, an allowance for everyone, and the end to very low capital gains taxes, an end to corporations as people. People speaking out against the Trans-Pacific Partnership in North America and Asia, and people also speaking out against the Transatlantic Trade Investment Partnership in Europe. So people can do more than just go to work and die. That's what a true sharing movement would look like. So let's start using the terms correctly. So that was it for Breaking the Table. We're going to have a short break. Please tune in to us every Saturday at 3 p.m. at The Black Grrl Show, LA Talk Live, and Radio 365. Hello, I'm back, and our next guest, well actually our first guest, is Lisa Teasley. I'm going to read her bio. Lisa Teasley is the author of the acclaimed novel Heat Signature and Dive and the award-winning story collection Glow in the Dark, all published by Bloomsbury. Glow in the Dark is a winner of the Gold Pen and Pacificus Foundation Awards. Her past awards include the May Merrill Miller Award, the National Society of Art and Letters Award, and the Amaranth Review Award. Lisa Teasley's essays and stories and poems have been much anthologized and appearing in publications and media such as Los Angeles Times Magazine, Christian Science Monitor, National Public Radio, Essence, Ziziva, Los Angeles Review of Books, and Black Clock. Her BBC television documentary, High School Prom, was in long-term rotation in the UK. Lisa has taught fiction writing at UCLA's writer program, Antioch University, UC Riverside, and Cal Arts MFA program, among others. She let's see here, at least for not, writing program, among others. For the nonprofit Spoken Interludes, Lisa Teasley taught writing at the Juvenile Hall Community School program in Chatsworth, and for the nonprofit LIDE, a school for girls in Haiti. She is also a mentor at the Youth Mentoring Connection. So that is Lisa. I'm like, how am I going to mess that up? I love Lisa because Lisa, I think, is the only person that has cooler hair than me. You know, we are like fighting for the cool hair championship right now. Lisa's winning. So I'm going to ask you a random question. Your favorite LA beach?
Point Dume.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's a gorgeous beach.
Oh, so I can tell you're a beach person.
As the beaches in Big Sur.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like that would be a question to ask you, like something you would be into.
Right.
You know, yeah. I could have like, oh, what's your favorite bookstore? No, that's too easy. You're a writer. Because all the art people are getting upset with me because they're like, why are you asking us about bookstores and stuff? And you're asking all the writers like all the easy questions, like what's your favorite bar? Okay. So you have your book Dive, which is your debut novel, and it was a tale about a love affair between a construction worker and an animator in Anchorage. You have Heat Signature, kind of like a L.A. noir, kind of a novel, and then you have your short stories, Glow in the Dark, which I'm not sure. Is that going to be those going to be like little plays or something? That's going to be kind of LA story for Lisa Teasley at some point, or no?
Actually, one of the stories we did perform on stage as a play. Mm-hmm. One of the stories in Glow in the Dark, and I was thinking that was something that maybe in the future I would, pursue a bit, because I do tend to write a lot of dialogue, and and it lends itself well to being read live. So. Yeah, so I'm thinking that could be something that I'll look into later.
No, because that's the whole thing. You do have a lot of like dialogue. I feel like in a way, like I call like there's certain like LA writers, and I almost put them in this category called like Southern California Gothic, where you're kind of like beat, kind of like Southern Gothic, kind of telling a story, kind of not, just kind of like just talking a lot. Right. But I mean, it's a distinct California style of writing. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you think like Southern California has a writing style?
I don't know that I would say Southern California has a writing style, other than I see it more as a melting pot style, because we've got people from all over the world here. Mm-hmm. So it's a little more global in my view of the literary scene, mm-hmm. In terms of fiction in particular, because I don't know so much about the spoken word folks or even the poetry, but I would say that literary fiction, at least, we're kind of all over, mm-hmm. all over the place in terms of what we're writing about and the style. Yes, this is true, but it seems like you all write about murder at some point. Okay, so the California noir. Yeah, like what is that going on? Why does somebody always have to die in all your stories? I know that's like a theme that goes through a lot of LA specific writers. Right. Well, in my defense of not always writing about noir, I'm currently writing about a musician who's just been dumped from his band, and he's really just dealing with, is this mental illness or is this spiritual transformation or what's going on? Mm-hmm. And he's just trying to find himself. And there's no murder in it so far. So far. I don't think there will be. You don't think there will be? I don't think so. But of course, I don't know what his entire journey is yet. I never plot out the entire story. You don't? No, not at all. Oh, so you're one of the people who actually just kind of like lets the character like take you where it needs to go. Exactly. Otherwise, it's no fun for me, and there's no catharsis for me if I'm planning it ahead of time, like a script. Yeah, but you know what? Maybe that's my whole problem. Okay, I have it all planned out, and I just fill it in. Okay, all right. So, I mean, what? You're an LA native, correct? Mm-hmm. You're an LA native, and that's yes. Like I swear to God, I have so many LA native people are like, oh, there's no one from Los Angeles. I know. And there's plenty of people from Los Angeles. Absolutely. Look, yeah, and what high school did you go to? I went to Uni High. Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. Oh, university. If I could have went to public school, that's the school I wanted to go to. I was like, told my mom, can I please go to uni? That's where all the cool kids go. She was like, no. I went to Ramona Convent. Oh, okay. Yes, because, that was lots of fun.
I had lots of fun there. Yeah.
In uniform.
I loved uniforms. That's all that's why I dress the way I do now.
Right.
I have a uniform on because I was so inspired by all the originality that was that my high school inspired in me. So who's your favorite writer?
Well, who pops into mind first is Thomas Bernhard, an Austrian writer who he died in the 80s, and he wrote a lot of plays. But what I know best is his fiction. I've read everything in translation, and it's really his ability to look at the humor in our self-obsession and our neuroses. All of those things that we see as tragic in ourselves, because he always writes from the first person point of view, which I actually don't tend to do. But he'll write about a writer, and it'll seem like it's navel gazing, and yet it's extremely universal and extremely liberating to see someone kind of dive into that abyss, that small abyss, and then kind of pop out on the other side to, like the ocean in the sun kind of thing. So he's my favorite. And then Toni Morrison. Okay.
That's all. Yeah. It's kind of people who are taking a journey.
Exactly.
Taking a journey and coming out sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's a journey. It's a journey. It's it's what they call it. It's not getting there. It's a destination. No, that's not right. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's been a long night. You guys understand what I'm saying out there. I was going through your information, and I was looking at the LA Review of Books. And it says that a character that haunts you is Nabokov's Humbert Humbert. I love Lolita. It's like one of my six obsessions. I have no idea why. I think that's like, oh wow, it's horrible, but I love this. Why? Why? Obviously, there's a lot of reasons. But.
Well, first of all, the writing is amazing because he brings us in inside of a character, inside of the mind of someone who you would think that you wouldn't want to journey with, right? And so, and as we're reading it, are we saying, oh my God, we're in the mind of a pedophile, or are we just with Humpert Humpert? Is that, what's happening? And I would say it's the latter until you're done, I mean,
you realize you're so horrible.
Right. And it's that ability for a writer to show the humanity of absolutely anyone, and without judgment, because creating a character with judgment is then coloring it with all of your values and opinions and judgments. And so I applaud him for creating a story where we can, go in without judgment and come out on the other side and say, that was a human being and that was his story.
And it is terrifying, because a person who is a good writer, who is a good communicator, can humanize pretty much anyone, even a monster. Right. And that's I think that's what's always kind of makes me feel like, oh my gosh, because I'm just like, well, you start, you're like, and in your brain it's like, no, none of this was okay. None of this was okay, no matter how.
No matter what. But the monster is human.
Yes. So and you forget.
And you forget that. Yeah.
So, do you? What is your favorite kind of writing? I mean, do you like sci-fi? Do you like, literary fiction? Do you like poetry? I know it's like but you might like, journalism or media or nonfiction.
Well, I read a little bit of everything, but it's mainly literary fiction, and I read a lot of poetry. I read journalism, nonfiction, biography. So I mean, I'm always reading. I mean, a writer reeds. Probably even more than we write.
Well, a person who's good. There are a lot of people who are like just kind of like waiting their turn. Let me just rewrite this and rewrite this. That's what I say about the whole. That's why it's so interesting about poetry. You're sitting and watching everyone just waiting for their turn and no one's listening. But I think that's what I think, kind of want to go to my question in regards to like the community of writers.
Yeah.
I mean, do writers need a community?
I would say yes, because it's a solitary field that we're in, right? And so then when we participate in community, there is that camaraderie, that that mutual encouragement. There was the party, that we ran into recently
the
on
Hello
Thursday
LA.
night, Hello LA. And it's just nice to, come out of your little room, with your laptop and see all of the rest of us who do the same thing, and have a good time and get out of your funk, get out of your own inner critic, and have a little fun.
I think the thing that was shocking about that is I kept saying, and of course, if I go anywhere, I always have my little phone with me, and I took a picture of her. I was like, look, take a picture. I think I'm the only person who was doing that. The thing that I thought was nice was that there was no reading. I kept waiting for the reading. I was like, they're like, there is no reading. I'm like, what? How are they going to hear? Everybody's drunk now. No one's going to be paying attention to the reading.
Right.
It was like it was over. I was like, that was actually very nice.
It was very nice. It was just to commune.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess we do need a community, but maybe not so much to share our writing, but just to kind of share our experiences.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's actually like a whole little concept, Like,
right.
We're not even, that's, to get out into humanity, because
yes,
I can see people kind of going into their little hole and
right.
just, I never see them again.
Right.
So, I keep running. I've kind of run into you, I think, several times, and it's very strange. I'm always like, oh, it's Lisa. Oh, it's Lisa again. I'm like, we leave the house at the exact same time.
Right.
Yeah. So,
maybe it's little soul appointments.
Yeah.
Say hello.
So, they have a thing called, we all know, a thing called African American literature.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have literature. Do you think that the definition of African American literature is too narrow, or the definition of who can do literature is too narrow?
Well, what I've always thought that, the problem of marketing, I mean, even in music, is that then those who are looking for something to read might not find what they're looking for because they're going to a specific genre for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little naive or too Pollyanna to think that we can not have categories at all and just, and it's all put together and, in just one big, this is all literature, this is all poetry.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I have found it fascinating to see where my book is shelved. Is it shelved in literary fiction, commercial fiction, noir, or African American literature? And it's kind of been any of those things, and all of those things.
No, that's something very, it's like, we want to ask a question. You're like, it's kind of really hard. The challenging thing about it's not challenging, it's just interesting.
Right.
You don't really get put into the African American literature, and not all the time.
No,
it's
no.
Maybe if they've seen you, they just kind of go, oh, we're gonna just throw her in here.
Right.
But if they've never really seen you and they kind of just read your work, they're like, oh, okay, literary fiction,
Right.
noir, they don't really, how did that come about? Because you're very obvious who you are. You got your picture on your website.
Right.
How do they decide who to put where?
I don't really know. My picture is not on the paperbacks, which I actually asked for that,
Mm-hmm.
because they were going to do it, and I said, well, let's try it without, because I was thinking as well about male readers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know how there's that generalization that men don't read women, and yet what I've found in terms of emails that I get or letters that I get, that I actually have more male readers than female readers because I have quite a few male protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
And so that said, there have been reviews where it doesn't mention that I'm a black writer, or that the characters are black or white or Asian or Latino, because they're any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has actually been really interesting to me. And it's normally in the black press, it will say this is a black writer, this character's black, this character's white.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know what to say about that, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just what my experience has been.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think they're trying to say like, oh, you should read this. We're in it.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that could be what it is. Like, yeah,
Right.
you might not look for it, but you should read it because she's one of us.
Right, exactly.
So That's what I always feel like it's like this signal, like you's okay, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
you know, I'm not really sure. I can't get. I'm not in the mind of everyone. But I always thought it was, you know. I mean, and how did you get your first book published? Like, how did that come about?
So
Let's show some of your books.
okay, so here's Dive. That's the first novel. The first book was Glow in the Dark.
Yes.
Which are the stories. And the hardcover of Glow in the Dark was published by a small press in Seattle called Kuhn Press.
Mm-hmm.
And the publisher and I got to know each other. He had asked me to write an essay for an anthology years prior to the story collection, even the idea of the story collection.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after he published that, it got a great deal of press and, you know, won some awards. And then Bloomsbury picked up the paperback rights and then, you know, published the story collection in paperback. And then, you know, gave me my book deals for the novels.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like you just kind of like going along. It wasn't, you know, and they were like, oh yeah, you were cool. Let me. No, it probably was more. It was more than that. It was like, oh, her work was good, and this is why. And I mean, but I just think it's kind of good because I think everybody needs to know like the journey, like because everybody's journey is different,
Right?
And you know, there's so many people out there who are like, you know, want to get their work published or whatever.
I was told by agents that I would never get a story collection published first; that it would have to be a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually had a novel written after the idea of the story collection. But it ended up that the story collection got published first. And so there's never any rules. There's never any one way, you know, to getting published. And so, you know, that's the thing that you can never listen to those, you cannot do this way. You know, it's got to be just the way what you believe in. Because I actually believed in the stories first.
Well, that's you know, that's very inspirational. And I'm not saying that with sarcasm. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole thing. LA, we have this very like way of talking. No, I'm just saying it's I think Generation X it's a problem. It's a disease. I'm like having to tell people I'm being authentic when I'm saying this, and they're just like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, I am totally sure."
Yeah, I believe you.
Okay. So how did, you know, from LA when you were growing up and LA now? I mean, has it changed for you? I mean, is it different? Is it better? Is it worse? Do you care?
Well, what has changed is I used to say I could get anywhere in 20 minutes time. And, you know, and it's a stubborn thing that I'm still doing. I'm going to get there in 20 minutes. And no, it's going to be 30 to 40 to 45 minutes. You know, it's just a lot more crowded.
I was actually scared because I was talking to you an hour before the show. You're like, oh, I'm like, you haven't left the house yet? You know, there's traffic.
I live in Venice, and this is like, you know, I thought it's going to be 20 minutes here. But you can't make a left turn to this building from Sepulveda. So then I ended up going all the way, you know, past the airport, and then you can't make a U at so many junctures. And so
oh my gosh, I usually give people that warning. I'm like, if you go too far, you'll be going to the airport. And they're like, what do you, and actually I didn't give you that warning. I didn't give you that warning. So now I feel bad.
Don't feel bad. I got here.
Yeah, you got here. But I'm that way too. I always think, oh yeah, you can get to everywhere in Los Angeles because, you know, when you're raised here, that was kind of like the idea. You can get to everywhere, 20 minutes, and I'll be on the freeway crying. Like never, I'm never making this. I went to the LA Art Book Fair and I drove around for an hour and I still did not find parking. I just went to Santa Monica. I was like, forget this. And I went to Santa Monica. To Chihuahua Choi's event. I was like, you know what? I can go to the book fair tomorrow. So what do you think? Which town do you think is more literary? LA or New York? Or maybe it's like a place in Iowa. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's still, if the numbers are still the same, but I think that Seattle actually is the place that reads the most books. I think that's where the most books are sold. I might be wrong, but that was a stat I heard a while ago. I lived in New York in the 90s, and it felt the New York literary community, it felt a lot more. There was a lot more high pressure because the business is there.
Yes.
Whereas here in LA, it's a lot more relaxed because the business, quote unquote, is not here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with the art world as well. And so I would say, I don't know. I mean, also there might be that California actually, because it's larger state, that there's more books sold here. I mean, I'm talking, out of just like stats I've read over the past few years. I don't know what it is today,
Mm-hmm.
but New York is still, of course, seen as the place where books are sold, books are written.
I have to control myself and not go to Google and try to figure out what it was.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
For anyone that's listening now,
go Google it. What is it? Where you go?
It? Yeah,
yeah. And who? And another thing too, I think it's really with Los Angeles is that writers is kind of viewed as like a hobby sometimes by people who are not in the whole writing gig. Like, oh, so do you have a screenplay? No, you don't have a screenplay. That's the real writing. Screenplays are the real writing. This is a fake. This is a book that you write in order to get a screenplay. You don't write that because that's
right.
The end.
Or that's just cocktail chat because there are so many writers here writing books. So many books coming out of this city.
Yeah.
And we know that.
Yeah,
it's just that everyone else doesn't know that, and also that so many people don't know that there are natives here. Just because everywhere I go and I say, when I say I'm from LA, really, I've never met a native before, and I hear that at every single.
And they're
gathering.
like, and she can write and read. It's like, well, you're from Los Angeles and you write books. I didn't know that existed. That's what I think somebody actually told me. They were like, I didn't think you were from here because you're not a moron. I'm like, well, thank you, I guess. Well, you probably heard it before.
Yes.
What are some projects that you're, before I ask you that, and I swear to God, it's like I'm always like, I need to just Facebook these interviews because I need to just be on Twitter doing these interviews because I'm always thinking that people know what I said already and it's just in my head. So what are your, your next projects that you'll be doing? Do you have anything that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on a novel right now.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm a painter, I always have a painting on the easel. So that's always something that I'm doing. And I'm usually working with kids in some kind of capacity. And on Monday, I'm going to meet with the people at the Right Way Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably my next project, is teaching a workshop there.
I did not know that you were a painter.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
I used to show a lot in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my books took off, then it just became a bit more about book touring, and but I was always a writer first. It was just that I'm always quietly painting, doing commissions, and and that kind of thing. And then I'm in the art collective called How Do You Say Yam in African, otherwise known as the Yam Collective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably at some point I did know that, and then just because you do so many things, I just fell off my memory.
I'm known for the writing. Really, But I'm always painting too.
Wow, you're just a very talented person. How do you do all these things? How do you do all these things? And
Well, I think it's a matter of creative self-expression has always been so important.
Mm-hmm.
In my household. My parents were very encouraging of our individuality, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
The way you went to school and the uniform. I think that the uniforms probably forced you to, really recognize who you were
Mm-hmm.
very early on, and that you knew that you wanted to express yourself as soon as you got out of there, if you weren't already doing it while you were there, right?
They had to make rules for me. New rules.
Right. So, so I think that we all are creative, and it's all a matter of how much we were encouraged or we kept that fire alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think of it so much as how do we find the time to do those things, as much as how do we not find the time to keep ourselves, interested in life, passionate about something.
This is
it's
very
really
true.
important. And that's why I like to work with kids, because I just want to keep that spark, see that blossoming. I mean, it's a selfish thing too, because to see a kid blossom, there's nothing more exciting, to experience, to witness.
That is, I mean, it is exciting. I mean, to be the kind of person to help, for kids to know that's an option, especially too because, you're a published writer. You have had art shows. I'm not saying that if you weren't published, it wouldn't be the same. It would be the same, but it means something more like, oh, I can grow up and I can do this.
You can do it.
You can do, because I always tell people there are no safe careers. There are nothing safe.
There's nothing safe anymore. We've all seen that now. So why not? Why not go for plan A rather than plan B?
That is true. Oh yeah, that is very true. And is there anything else that you would like to say? Anything that any final closing words?
Closing words. My eyes went right to your sign right there that says love, and I feel really corny, but I just feel like that's the most important thing is love. Mm-hmm. Showing everyone whose path that you cross, show them some love. Open the door for them, say hello, smile.
You're just such a beautiful person.
So are you.
No. When I'm around people like you, I always feel like such a jerk. I don't know why. Like I deep down.
No, you're the one with the sign that says love right there. I wouldn't have said that if it wasn't just right there.
That's not my sign, because I would not have a sign that said love. People who know me know that would never happen. Well, anyway, I mean, that's great though. Whoever put that there, you're a beautiful person. But that was so thank you so much for visiting, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
I really, really appreciate that conversation.
I think
that was pretty awesome. I'm gonna have to look at it again and be like, wow, Lisa and Tika are very entertaining. We should be like some kind of I don't know, Lifetime Channel TV show reality host thing. That's the future. There you go. That's the idea. So that was going to be it. And we're going to go and have a little bit of a break. I want you guys to remember that to tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. at latalklive.com, at iTunes R&B, at Radio 365. And so that's pretty much it. And we will be back in a moment with Ninjuli, and we'll be talking to her about all the cool art projects, because she's doing some really cool stuff, and we are actually working on an art project together. So talk to you in a bit. See you in a minute.
I've been punished, but my crimes, but still I can't Seems that I become my own worst enemy.
Hello, this is Tika Lark Fleming with MPC Presents the Black Grrl Show. We're going to talk about a few events that's going to be going on next weekend. The 4th annual LA Zine Fest is happening at 3347 North San Fernando Road in LA. It's a DIY over 180 zinesters, so we hope to see you there. And of course, the Black Grrl Book Fair, which will be going on March 7th. But right now, we have our second guest, Nazuji, and I'm going to read her bio and then we'll talk to her. Born and raised in Luanda, Angola, to an African father and American mother, Nazuji has the opportunity to learn and draw inspiration from two distinctively different cultural backgrounds. Both perspectives have shaped creative exploration, currently unfolding and developing within her studio. Folklore mythologies were two of the most important and essential elements in young people's lives, considering the theoretical and political development of culture. Traditionally, folklore and mythology have been two elements essential and central in the lives of young people in Angola. However, due to the rise and proliferation of Western influences, many of these traditions and beliefs are disappearing. Nazuji's artwork vividly critiques social, cultural stereotypes, post-colonial discourse, myth, ethnicity, politics, and other challenges that she's confronted in her life. Using fusion and hybridity, she meticulously combines art forms learned in Angola and America to create work that conveys stories of her birthplace and her stay in America. Presently, Nazuji's work has grown into a three-dimensional arena where she explores and adds sounds as another medium for expression and artistic endeavor. Angola is a dynamic and culturally rich country filled with unexplored histories and heritages. These unknown cultural territories risk extinction with the rapid expansion of American and European influences. Many misconceptions still shroud the reciprocity between Africa and the United States, though the exchange of ideas and information Nazuji attempts to transform these misconceptions into knowledge. So how are you?
How are you?
She's just laughing at me, sitting here, just rolling. I was trying.
You were trying. Great job.
I was trying,
Great
and
job.
I'm upset with myself. I'm upset with myself.
No worries.
Okay, I'm
You're
gonna
forgiven.
okay. See, I'm gonna ask a hard question then. Now let's get. Or be Miss Smarty. Okay, just kidding. What is your favorite ice cream?
Oh my gosh. That will be cookies and cream. Black cherry.
One. Your favorite ice cream. You can't just name a whole bunch. You gotta make a choice.
I'll say cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream.
Yum yum. Black and white.
Oh, that's good. It's very yummy. So, okay, yes, and get very close to the microphone so we can make sure that we hear you.
All right.
Oh, okay, that's better. So what inspires you?
Now that's a hard question, right? Well, many things inspire me in a sense. I mean, my life, where I live, community, environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, the world is my studio in a way. So I take inspiration from other people, stories, what's going on, news, different kind of news, world news, you know. So I just don't stay in one place, though I live in one place.
Yeah, you live in one place, but you know, I think I remember when I first met you. I met you at Papillon's Michelle's gallery.
That's right.
And I saw you had these pianos. I was say they're not little, but they were actually like you had several pianos that had several stories on them.
That's right.
And was it kind of like a mix of Western culture and Angola, or
it's anywhere you wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally your environment as you see it. You know, it could be good or bad. It could be a street, could be my street, and you know, it's a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
I never add like a place to it, though it has a name, you know, a street name or boulevard or road or something, but it's not necessarily in Angola or Rwanda or downtown LA. It could be any place you remember it, you know. maybe you walked around in a neighborhood that was kind of harsh and you wanted to leave. That's that neighborhood, you know, or that one that you want to be, oh yeah, I want to live here. That's that neighborhood, you know. So those keyboards kind of is that representation of everywhere that you go, the situation's actually the same. Doesn't matter where you are. Could be here, could be there. People act the same.
Yes,
You know?
that I think that is a key thing that people should know. I mean,
Yeah.
we are all human and we all are the same,
Yeah.
but not the same. But you know, we have our diversity, but our experiences. All people experience happiness. All people experience
That's right.
sadness, and I think too in this time in America where we so many times demonize Africa
Right.
as
That's
this place
correct.
that is not a
It's
place of
exotic,
humanity.
right?
Like, oh, it's you know, even if we're positive, it's like this. Oh, it's so exotic. Oh, it's so with them. Oh, it's so, you know, it's we don't seem to understand it. And you kind of being bicultural, being American and African, or
Right.
American and, you know, Angolan at the same time, you know, that must be kind of confusing for you, because it's probably you're getting from both sides. You're getting this. You're like, oh, you don't understand either.
Yes, I know. I mean, when I moved here, years ago, as a young girl, you know, that was kind of weird. You're like, why do you say the things you say when you never been there to say it, you know? So you never experienced it, then why have that conversation? Again, I was very naive about the culture here. So I was very angry. You know, the judgments, I suppose, of other people, you know, asking these questions. But in reality now, you know, growing up and understanding that they don't know. So they're curious. So they're asking those very mundane, naive questions. You kind of have to grow up, you know, and see that, okay, you're asking that question that you should maybe have known, that we're not mythical creatures, you know, we're not a story, we're not Simba, you know, or something like that, right? We're just like you, you know, we're developed, you know, contemporary, modern people
Yeah.
that go through problems like everybody else. But then again, it's that information that goes through, you know, to say that, okay, I want you to see this and this is what it is. Go beyond that a little bit, as I did, you know. Lucky for me that I experienced both worlds. So then I can kind of, you know, place anything in a sense that, like, okay, you belong here and you belong here, so I know how to communicate. Now I do, you know. So in that sense, you know, being African, yes, I am African, but I'm also American, you know, yes, very proudly, you know. But then again, I'm just a person. So in each situation, is almost like, do you belong? Where do you belong? I belong everywhere.
No, we all belong everywhere.
Yeah.
And you know, you have pieces at the Metro. You know, another thing I thought was so interesting about your bio. There was so much on your bio, and then didn't mention her MFA, didn't mention her, like, you know, hundreds of shows. You've been to, like, the City Museum of Harlem. You've been, you know, you've had like, you've gotten a lot of public art grants. You've done so much. I don't even know why she's talking to me. That's why I always tell her. I'm like, I don't even know why she bothers to talk to me. She's
You're
so
a cool
above
person.
my
You're a cool
league.
person. No.
I can't even afford her art.
No
That's how
way.
big she is. You know, so modest. So modest. You don't think that? Okay.
I'm good. You're good.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, it's true. I mean, you work in so many, you know, you paint, you draw, you do comics, you do, you know, you do kind of like sculptures. What do you not do? What do you do? Do you do music?
I do that too.
You-
Yes, I do that too. Yeah, I played, you know, a little bit piano, I sing, or, you know what I mean? So I'm very experimental. So I'm very flexible, and I'm curious about just learning different things, and then how this thing will work with that. I mean, if you look at my work, you know, mixed media, I use yarn. something that you're supposed to knit, but like, hey, I figure out other ways I can use. I can't knit, but I use the material, and I use it in a way that it kind of evokes some sort of information, communicate to something. So that's basically what my work is about. It's having like these little things and these palpable, things you can touch and it's soft, but then has some sort of otherworldly, kind of like another dimension to it. You know what I mean? You can take it home with you, the experience. So yeah, the flexibility in making art, in all of us, in every artist, I think is being flexible and being open to learn different things. That's what we do, basically, and we try everything.
You actually do try everything. I mean, I think that's something. I haven't seen. I mean, there are a lot of people who call themselves mixed media artists, but they are not quite. They don't quite do everything. They do. It's not. Putting wood and paint together. I mean, yeah, I guess that's mixed media. I'm not trying to disparage anyone, but that's not quite like what I would in my own head. I kind of imagine like what you're doing, like this work that's so it's complicated, but it's addressing. It's fine art and it's sophisticated, but at the same time it's folk art. It's like this weird mix.
Yeah, this fusion.
Of different perspectives. Right. And I guess that's probably because of your heritage and maybe you having to see both sides.
True, and also because of the environment that I live in. I don't live in a palace somewhere where everything's so fine art or whatever. I mean, if you look at your environment where you are, people around you, people you work with, you talk to, we're kind of down to earth. Everything is kind of down to earth. It's just down there and say, okay, so it's not really up here. So you have to kind of find a middle ground, where everyone can be involved. You know what I mean? It is fine art, but then it's art for you. If I'm talking about keyboards, somebody here plays the piano, and maybe wants to touch it. Like, can you still play that art? Yes, you can.
I did not know that because I can play the piano. I really did not know that. I should have done that.
It's functional.
Okay.
You can still play.
We know they have. People always tell you don't touch the art.
The art. That's right. And I mean, I had that performance. I even did a performance at the Hammer Museum where I touched my art. And have a whole four movement piece.
You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about with her? She's like doing stuff at the Hammer, playing like the piano,
Painted keys.
Yeah, paint keys and stuff.
Yes.
But so modest, just so random. Oh yeah, just like oh, by the way, it's kind of like me. Oh, I went by, I got this drink at this bar. You're like, oh, I was just playing at the Hammer one day, doing my whole art thing.
That's right. You've been in it too long, and then everything just becomes kind of normal.
So I was gonna say, are you jaded now? Are you jaded by your success?
Not even that. It's just part of life. You've been doing it for years. I mean, the first experience, you're a kid and oh my God, I got my first show. Boom, party. But then now you're doing it so many times. Okay, let's do another one. Yeah. So that's what it's all about.
People who are not in the art world. It's so funny. I need to put like all the stuff that I need to put down her whole like CV of all of her art projects and other people. Then you can see like this is like a huge big deal. It's not like some people just get shows all the time. No, you actually have to have a skill for them to keep asking you to come back over and over again. That says something about you, something about your professionalism, something about your art, something about what people. And I wish people, actually, on a larger scale, like, because it seems like the women artists aren't as, I don't know, maybe they're not as marketable or whatever. Like, why aren't you on the cover of these magazines? And why? I don't understand. What's going on? Do you need an agent? I can be your agent. I can be your agent.
That would be awesome. I mean, it's just any business. Any kind of genre anywhere, the same thing, that's that glass ceiling.
For women.
For even women, not just women of color, for any women. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're talking about success in the arts, are we talking about that 1%?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Look at the movie business. It's almost the same thing. The same actor, in all these different movies when you have all these other actors behind them, right? So it's that same idea. Yes, done shows and whatever, but is that glass ceiling? There's something that is missing, or there's a bridge you cannot cross, or it's just, it's like anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like any kind of work, any kind of genres, any kind of thing you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I need to I'm going to talk about our project that we are working on together.
We're collaborating.
We're collaborating. One night, I was on Facebook. I'll tell you the story. One night, I was on Facebook. I think it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I get this Facebook private message. I get it from you.
Oh my gosh, 2 in the morning.
It was very late.
Was I working? I think
it was very late, and you're like, let's do a cartoon. And I was like, I've had this idea for years, and you can do it with me. And you were like, okay.
Yes.
So we started like, I want to say like I'm the brains and she's the fingers, but she's really smart. So I don't know how I would, okay, you're half the brain. You're like the left side. I'm the right side.
Okay, we can do that.
We could do that. You could be the left side of the brain. I'm the right side of the brain.
I can work with that.
Yeah. And you probably have seen her flashing on the screen. Her name is Virginia Davis, and she is a cat. And we use her to, she's a black woman cat. And we use her to talk about politics. We use her to talk about race. We use her to talk about class. We use her to talk about larger issues in society. And it will be debuting on Monday. So please tell me how you got the inspiration to draw Virginia, because she's very like Afrocentric.
Yeah, Virginia Davis. She's the cutest, sassy cat ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is, I was thinking about her after our deep conversation, and then kind of weeding things out, what I should add and take, and what I should take out. Virginia is actually a cat that she's a black cat, but she's not like her fur is black, right? Mm-hmm. But not necessarily a cat that is black.
Mm-hmm,
the only reason she acts black is maybe because of what she saw on TV, or even her owner is black.
She has a very good costume.
Yes, she does. She's very pretty. She's very sassy. She's very pretty girl.
She has a little afro.
She's very poofy. You know. So, but she has these great ideas that come in her head. She sees things in her environment. She talks to her cat friends and dog friends, and whatever comes out of her mouth is like, what? Like you really thought that out?
Yeah.
That through? So
she had to stop me. She had to stop me. There were several times where she was like, that is not going to work. That's disgusting, so we can't do that. Which is weird, because I don't have that filter, I don't have that thing on my head that goes, that's not appropriate. But luckily, my partner has that. So it will be, that's why I said it will be a weird combination.
Yeah, just think about it. Everything that comes out into the space, into the reality, we're talking about something that people can see versus that can read. It's a completely different, even though you see both, but when you have an image, then things change, because is she representing me? Look at her. You know what I mean? Look at how she walks, or how she moves her little shoulder. Like, I kind of do that, So then it becomes kind of like this mirror image. And that's the part that you kind of need to be, think about it, whatever happens in your mind, your mind swims, goes through so many different things, there's no door that the mind can go through. It's when it comes to the environment, things, now you have to put a wall around it and kind of like, think about it. So, and in anything that you do, especially in the arts, you have filters, because sometimes the art can work with you, and sometimes it can work against you.
And people actually seem to me with visual art, it seems that people take it more personally,
Right.
if they are offended. Because with writing, you can all, and I see writers all the time doing this. Whoa, I didn't mean that. I that didn't mean that. You're just reading it wrong. But if you have a picture doing certain things,
Right.
kind of like the Charlie incident, you have a picture
There
in
you go.
France.
There you go. Yes.
You, no matter what you do, people are going to interpret it, especially with drawing. They're going to interpret it more strongly than a written language. I don't know why that is, but I seem to see that people seem to react more to cartoons than to visual arts.
Right.
You can write this really kind of inflammatory, not necessarily inflammatory, but you can write a controversial idea, but it's not going to get as much traction. I mean, unless among the people who are readers, but readers don't ever leave the house. They just go back and forth on Twitter. But people,
That's right.
who are visual people, it seems to impact people more. So I mean, do you see that? Because you do so many things. You're you're a Renaissance
I'm
woman.
there, right? Like that's my environment, and I am an image maker,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a visual artist. So I kind of I've learned, actually, maybe the proper word is I learned how my audience kind of see.
Mm-hmm.
So then again, I have to kind of turn around and become that audience.
Mm-hmm.
In anything that I do, even sound too, you hear it, and how's that related to the image that you make. So going back to Virginia Davis, that's exactly right. Even though she's a representation, she's an animal, she's a cute cat,
Mm-hmm.
but then you got to think about, okay, she's not a regular cat. She's a sassy cat. So, I mean, is that really a representation of black women?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
She's just a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And, that lives in a house and well-fed.
Mm-hmm. Well-fed cat.
Well-fed cat. She got all the trimmings and that we should be jealous about. But again, she's just a cat.
Mm-hmm.
That has some really interesting ideas. So it's almost like you have to create that separation. She's not human.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
she's created by a human being,
Mm-hmm.
but herself, she's not human.
Mm-hmm.
So that representation of how she sees politics or how she sees race or how she sees gender, to whom? To
Mm-hmm.
herself? I mean, the race of her catness, or is it her owners or
Mm-hmm.
whoever she sees, because then we are judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
We judge people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, is she judging the human being? Okay, maybe so, right? Maybe not. It's just what she sees.
Yeah.
And then she feeds on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and interesting enough, that's how people sometimes act too.
Yes.
Just see something. Okay, let me think about that. But do you have all the information?
Yes. Yeah. And that's that. Yeah. We act
Right.
on historical information, generational information,
Right.
from what books we've been allowed to see, from what perspective we've been allowed to see, what news sources we've been allowed to see. So even our information that we think, well, I have filtered this and I have over and over again. Well, same thing with the internet. The internet used to be like this really, truly open thing before, Wikipedia. I was on the internet before there was Wikipedia. I was on there. And I remember putting stuff in, and there were when you put items in, certain things come up. But now I notice it's, the item that's more popular, the item that's more, and because I'm on that border age where I understand the internet, but they still have card catalogs at the very end. So I understand you have to look for things.
Right.
But there are people who are raised right now whose brains have been trained. You just put it in the box.
Right.
You press return. They don't even know that there could be something else. There could be something deeper. Because when you do it, when you kind of like the analog research, we knew we had to go and dig deeper. When I was a little kid and I was doing projects and I had to go to the encyclopedia, I had to look through the encyclopedia. Oh, it's not enough here. I have to go to the library and get a book.
Right.
Now kids go put information to Google. And it's not that Google's bad, because for somebody like me who understands how to research and how to look,
Right.
but that's a scary thing.
That is definitely is. I mean, it's almost like a two-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does help you, right? I mean, you reach areas you never could reach. I mean, you go into libraries you cannot go walking, maybe
Mm-hmm.
across the nation. But then again, it's almost, I mean, just going back to that, like cell phones. Once upon a time, my mom said you can use a cell phone for emergencies. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They're texting it now. It becomes an office now. I mean,
Make sure you get to the mic.
right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so it's technology in itself is almost like it's a blessing, and it's some in certain extent, but also could be your doing. So it's almost how you use it, to what extent. But then again, don't say what you see on the screen is the full story. It's not. It's not. It's definitely not the full story.
And right, even with different with countries, America, with Angola, with I just I was just very the last week we had on Unire Brown Gabon, and actually Gabon Brown, and he was talking about Tanzania, and it was he was talking about his show on albinism,
right?
But I really wanted to be like, okay, I need to have another balance for this, because they're talking about people, and I'm like, this is like the perspective people have,
right?
And it's not fair, because there's so much information that's out there that is negative, that is not. So it almost becomes, not saying that I feel bad, I'm not trying to say it almost I'm not disparaging that, I'm just saying it almost becomes a lie. When you tell only one truth, a story becomes a lie.
That's true. I mean, it depends on the perspective. That's what history is, right? Depends on this perspective of the person that told you. Who are you reading it from? And then, okay, let me be open to other perspectives. This person saw it in a different angle. It's like that half truth. You just saw it when you were there, but did you see why that happened? And that's the research, right? Yes, I mean, if you're talking about Tanzania, or I mean, the nation in itself, the African continent, it needs help for sure. But there's certain countries in it, that actually are getting there. They got it. They actually got it. But then there's problems all over the place. So you can't compare, that, yes, I know the story about, albinos in Tanzania and what they go through. And albinos, even certain albinos in Angola almost went through that. Thank goodness they didn't. But, that half-truth, I mean, get all the info first and then make your judgments. So don't just rely on one word.
Exactly.
I think Virginia Davis is like that a little bit, right? She's
Yeah.
a little bit about that one word, right?
Exactly.
And then create the perspectives in her mind and blurs it out, So we do have to be careful.
Exactly. So I very much appreciate our conversation. I think it was fabulous. But I need to know, is there anything else that you're doing?
Oh my goodness, what am I not doing? Yeah, I have a show coming up at CAM, at the California African American Museum in the summer. So I'm doing some work with that. Keep working on Virginia Davis, so I have some more little details to work on the next picture, I guess.
Okay.
Working on compositions for music. What am I not doing?
I know. What are you not doing? I feel as if I'm not doing enough.
No.
I need to, you could write me a song and I can play it on here. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate our guest so much today. I had a really great conversation. And I hope to see you guys all next Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at latalklive.com, iTunes, R&B, 360 Radio. I'm actually always saying that wrong. I look over here. Live 365. Well, you guys know what I meant. That's what I always tell you. You know what I meant. Communication is about communicating. I'm communicating the point. All right. Also, if you want to look me up online, hashtag Black Grrl, BLK, GRRRL, and make sure to come to the Black Grrl Book Fair on March 7th and check out Virginia Davis, which will be debuting on February 9th, Monday. So you guys have a great Saturday. Make it home and don't go to jail or anything, because that's expensive and the bus is not fun. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. The bus is great. The bus is great. Sorry. Public transit and all that good stuff.
That's right.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
They say I'm different 'cause I'm a piece of sugar cane. Sweet to the core, that's right, I got a real bone. My great-grandma didn't like the foxtrot. Now instead she spit, it's nothing boogie, dram on dram. Spit on. They say I'm different 'cause I eat chitlins. I can't help it, I was born and raised on them. That's right, every morning after slopper hogs and maybe getting off humping the Johnny Hooker. Get it on. They say I'm different 'cause I'm a piece of sugar cane. And when I kick my legs, I got real bone. My great-grandpa was a blues lover, but he be rocking his moonshine to baby king and